Welcome to Bigfoot Society. If you have Bigfoot activity to report from the same areas discussed in this episode, please reach out to me directly after this episode. And if you'd like to be on the podcast to discuss a personal Bigfoot encounter, please reach out to me directly at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Do you wish there was more Bigfoot Society to listen to every week? Well, there is now. If you become a supporting member over at Patreon, you get a special members-only episode every single week on Wednesdays, and sometimes even more episodes. Head on over to patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. And now let's get on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, got the privilege of talking to Barb Hartman today from Puget Sound in Washington State. She's a listener of the podcast, and we started talking about some interesting things that were going on. And she's going to go ahead and share what's going on in her area. But how's it going tonight, Barb?
It's going fine. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this chat. I have a feeling it's going to be a very interesting one, but I'm going to go ahead and give it right over to you, Barb, and go ahead and introduce yourself, anything else we need to know, and share what's going on in your area.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, I'm just a mom and a grandma, new grandma, and
Barb, you there? Barb, you there? Hold on. I'm having issues hearing you. Are you still there? What are you coming out of? Sorry, hold on. This is so weird. Oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna.
hello.
Hey, Barb. We're still recording. Okay, so the last few interviews, it's so weird. Right when the person starts sharing, it's like, bam, every time just cuts out. And this time,
oh my gosh,
my audio board just took a super dive and got stuck in like a I don't know. It's weird. It's like very, very strange.
Wow.
And it started happening when I was talking to this guy who was talking about some really weird stuff in Tennessee.
Wow.
Like he was being watched by a black dark van in his neighborhood and stuff. So
wow. Yeah,
but I got it up and running. So
yeah, I was wondering if it's wild because last night when I was on a show and then I was done and I saw that there's some like watching me from the trees. And so I'm like, I wonder if they're doing it tonight. So I just asked them to knock it off and behave. I don't know.
Like there's
so
like
weird.
a unmarked car or?
No. I'm talking about like the actual Sasquatch, not any humans. Like,
okay.
I
cool.
mean, so I don't know, it could be complete coincidence, but
All right, Barb.
Right?
Let's try take two.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead.
Okay.
We'll get right over to you and we'll see what happens this time.
Gotcha. Okay.
Barb, you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Like, oh no.
It's going to be funny. All right. So I'm just going to let you go ahead and we'll take it right from where you're starting to introduce yourself and anything else. You can go into what's going on in your area, please.
Okay. Gotcha.
Cool.
Okay. You ready for me to start? Okay.
You got it.
Okay. All right. So we moved to Washington State in 2012 and we moved to this house in 2017. It was a bit of a fixer-upper, I guess. We're right on the Puget Sound. The house had sat vacant for quite a long time, and for most of the time that it was built in the early 80s. And I think for the most part, it sat vacant. The woman that we bought it from she spent a lot of time in I believe, Arizona. So anyway, so it did sit vacant. So we bought it in September of 2017. And the first sign that we saw was my husband found big, huge footprints, like bear, not the animal bear, barefoot prints under the house in some gravel. And he's more of a skeptic, I guess, definitely more than I ever was. But he said he walked by these prints for a few days and finally said, I have to tell Barb about this. Also, he had found on our beach, there were big like boulders that sit way down in the sand, and it's a rock beach. So in the stones, these boulders were like upturned. And he thought that was kind of odd. And then I said, no, I've heard of them doing things like that, because it's normally you would need some kind of like almost heavy machinery to move these big things out. So yeah, so I took some pictures, and we thought it was kind of neat, but we honestly, like, I guess realistically, I didn't think that it was, real. I don't even know how to, describe that. But anyway, and we didn't really have anything happen, anything else, any other signs up until this, let me see, March, I guess, of 22 is when we had another kind of obvious thing that was weird happened. One of our hillsides got just literally overnight, was just completely dug up. Again, it's an area where the native plants are so compact, and it's a tightly woven, it's called kinnick berries, and the vines, they're so tightly woven, it basically holds the bank up. And a part of the hillside was just like completely ripped apart. And we have home security cameras on that area and really on the perimeter of the our yard. So if it was something like a bear or something like that, we feel that we would have been able to see that. But so again, just another kind of a curious thing that happened. And then in August of 2022, that's about like wildfire season in the western part of the country. And so we decided that the one side of our house, which faces the woods, we really needed to kind of clean up that area that was close to the house. There was a lot of just dry, under just a bunch of junk, forest junk and dry stuff. So we cleaned that up and cut down some little tiny trees that were kind of like dead and just basically fire hazard. So about 10 days later, we found this like a large tree break that went, I think it was about 15 feet up. I'm looking at it right now. It's about 15 feet up, and it's a perfectly healthy tree. We had not had any wind, nothing that should have caused this portion of this tree to break. And then we closely inspected it. We discovered that it was not only broken, it was a twist break. And then a few days after that, another tree was bent toward that and kind of tucked under the first large branch and forming a complete X, like a perfect X. So at that time in my life, I was really getting involved in kind of like starting to research a lot about Bigfoot. It's something that I've always been interested in. I watched all the documentaries. My dad introduced me to The Legend of Boggy Creek when I was a little girl. And, he showed me the Patterson-Gimlin film. So I just was always really fascinated by the subject, but, not really knowing if this is a cool thing, if it exists, but not really knowing if it actually did. So these were some kind of bizarre signs that were happening. It was almost like things were happening that we could no longer avoid, this may just be Bigfoot, living near us or coming through. I was kind of the opinion that maybe it was just one that was just maybe migrating through, saw that what we were doing with the house, like I said, it had sat vacant prior to us moving in. And so I thought that possibly it just somebody was curious about what we were doing. So after that that X was formed, I was talking to some people that I knew through the various Bigfoot pages that I belong to on Facebook. And one of them was Mike Scott. And I think that you know him, Jeremiah. I'm pretty sure that you do. And he's a great guy. And I showed him, I sent him the picture and I said, what do you think? And he's like, I think that you have some activity, because he's a researcher and an active, boots on the ground guy. And he said, why don't you go out and kind of just look around in the area that I normally hike through, which is within walking distance of my house. And it's a very safe, I've always felt safe there. I know that it's protected by the people that own it. There's never any human activity, or, it's just we live in a really rural, like remote area. So I just always felt safe. And so he said, just go and check, kind of check around in that area. And he said, if you want to see anything, if you do, he was pretty sure that it was Bigfoot activity. He said, if you want to see anything, what you don't want to do is do not take your phone with you. Like if you take your phone with you, have it in your pocket, don't have it out, like going around filming everything. So I thought to myself, well, I don't know if I'm really honestly ready. I was not ready to see anything. So of course I took my phone and what I did is I put it in a like a pocket, waterproof pocket that hangs on a lanyard, and that I just hangs around my neck. And that's how I'm typically outside, anyway, in our yard, just gardening or whatever, doing yard work. So I thought, if there really are Bigfoot here, they would be used to seeing me have that. So before I went into the woods, I just started, I press record and just kind of let it go. I walked around for about an hour and a half, just looking at some things and just talking to the forest like I do. It's so beautiful. And there was an area that I was saving for last, which I had found this wood structure in December of 21. So about 6 months before, prior to this, maybe a little bit more than 6 months, but anyway, prior to this. And it looked like, I call it like a wood igloo. It looked like an igloo, but made out of sticks and branches, and like all woven together. I found it with my son and my son-in-law, and we were thinking, like, it didn't look like it wouldn't be like a human structure. There's certainly not enough coverage if a human's going to use it, for any kind of shelter, but possibly an animal, but we didn't really know how it could have been made. But we didn't really, again, at that point, we weren't really thinking that much. This is just another little piece of evidence, that has added. But my son had crawled in it, and he said it could be a den, and he felt that there was an area that was next to a tree. And so a large tree. So he felt there was an area that he said he could have maybe crawled down in, like it was dug down in deeper, but I didn't want him. I said, get out of there in case there is some sort of an animal in there. The structure itself is about 4 feet inside tall and maybe 6 feet on the outside, maybe 8 feet wide. But anyway, so I was saving this particular area because I thought if there's any, Bigfoot around, whatever, that would be interesting to see if there's any sign of them. I got about, I'd say 10 to 15 feet from that little wood structure, and I got grunted at, like huffed at, or growl. No, it wasn't a growl. It was more of a grunt, like 2 grunts. And it was so kind of like loud, and that I felt it in my chest. And I've never heard anything like that. And it really shocked me. So I kind of backed up, and I thought, well, I don't know what to do. Like, is this my imagination? Then I decided, well, I'm just going to, I'm going to go home, just walk back home, because there's no way I'm going to continue to go any further. If it is some kind of I didn't think it was a bear, but it could have been. I didn't know what, I've no idea at the time. I had no idea what it would be. So I started to walk back home, and I got hit by this terrible feeling of like vertigo and a little bit of nausea, but not really. I was just completely disoriented. I have found out, now that it was most likely infrasound is what I was hit by. It was so, just like I said, just so disorienting. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's happening to me? Am I having a stroke or a heart attack or, brain aneurysm? What is happening? I was so scared. And then the feeling left me. So that was maybe 30 seconds, I'm guessing. I don't know, that I had that terrible feeling.
Barb, I'm sorry.
Then it left.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that last that last part, we had
About
a weird interference, something about like me.
Oh, okay. Did I say it hit? All right, let me see. What was I? Was I talking about being hit by the infrasound?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what I feel now, or, what I come to find out, it was most likely infrasound. This feeling hit me, and it was only for about 30 seconds, I would say, just to guess. And then the feeling instantly, it just left me, and I was completely normal. I had none of the symptoms. And I thought, well, phew, that's good. Thinking maybe it was just pure like adrenaline, my nerves, because I was scared and I was shaking a little bit. And I realized that I was not walking the way to my house. There's a kind of a deep ravine between our property line and the woods. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I would have kept walking, would I have fallen down in that ravine? I don't know, but I just couldn't believe, like, wow, I was going the complete wrong way. So I corrected my course, start, heading back toward my house. And then I get that feeling again. And it was just completely, the same wave as before, disoriented, vertigo. I felt like, oh my gosh, am I going to make it? And I again started to panic, like, what's happening to me? I just need to make it to my home. I don't want my family to be, not knowing what has happened to me. They knew where I was, but so they would have eventually found me. But again, I don't know if I'm having a heart attack or a stroke or whatever. So I was able to see the roof line of one of our outbuildings. We call it a carport. And so I just kept walking toward that. I thought, just keep focused on that. So walk toward that. And then eventually, and it wasn't even that far. We're talking about within a minute, I made it to our property line. And then the feeling completely left. It was like, it was gone. It was like a wave that just went away. And I was completely normal. I know that some people, they have side effects, but I didn't have anything. It was nothing. And I was kind of excited at that point to tell my family that I had been grunted at. And so I'm walking down to my house, and then I realized that my phone is dead. So, I had no idea when my phone would have died. It was fully charged when I went out into the woods. And so it should have been okay. But, I didn't know. I was just so excited. So I go down, plug it in, it's charging, and I'm telling my family and my husband and my daughter, like, yeah, okay, sure. You got grunted. Okay, Barb. Okay, Mom. Then the phone, when, was enough for me to check it, I found out that I was able to get that grunt, those two grunts or huffs or whatever. I did. My phone was filming at that time. So I was excited about that. It was very faint, but I still, it was audible. People, they could hear it. And so that was, I guess, just that was the start of really everything ramping up. Within a few days, we found large footprints in our yard, 15 inches, 18 inches. And I found what looked like a knuckle print. I found I guess it was November. Then I found what looked like, if you've ever heard of, they talk about glyphs, and this little with sticks and things. Actually, some wood that my husband was using in our renovation, it looked like somebody had made the shape of a boat under our house. And there's nobody, and my husband didn't know anything about glyphs, nor would he do anything like this. Nobody in my family knew. So, and I know that, none of us had made that. Then within a few days, it kind of started to, I don't know, kind of change shape, but it was very, very weird. Let's see. Then I'm trying to think. Then in late December, so we're still in December of 2022, I started a bunch of videos, like motion or notifications on our home security cameras. So they're just Arlo home security. Like I said, we have a perimeter of them. We monitor them. I'll get a notification if there's any kind of movement. So I started to get a bunch. I'm talking about overnight, I would get 20, or more notifications. And that's never happened before. We would get, plenty of wildlife, but not to this, never this amount. And I would go and watch the videos, and we never saw one thing. Typically, you might get see the tail end of a deer or a cat or whatever. We've had a cougar one time, but this was literally nothing. And so I thought, I wonder if if they're actually causing this, and they're either not showing up or they're just too fast. Like, is this possible? So I decided that I was going to listen to them, like manually try to, listen if I got a notification. So that's what I would do. Then I found out that I could, which I didn't know this, that I could actually record if I wanted to. So what I started to do is if I got a notification, I would just log into that camera and press record and see what happened. So what started to happen is I was getting these noises, like loud, like snorting and grunting and things that actually, it sounded like gorillas, or I guess that would be the closest thing, like silverback gorillas or large, like apes, the exact same kind of sounds. One night there was this sound that we thought, what is it? It was like a vibration noise and like percussive like sounds. Then I realized, my husband actually said, that sounds like maybe something's messing with the downspouts. Like they were blowing into the downspouts. And so since then, we don't have that, that much of that like consistently, but we have it on a regular basis, to the point where I've gotten so much audio that's pretty, it's like pretty compelling. And I was able to have some of it, I feel like the best quality stuff, that I was able to get run through like a spectrogram program. So it showed that it was outside of the normal range of, like human or animal sounds, which is like, so anything like about 600 hertz. And so I've gotten quite a lot of those. And now it's to the point where, now we're like 2 years into this, it's to the point where they will occasionally show up on the cameras, like a visual sightings. It's not great, but it'll be something brief. Or if I will go and visit them in the woods, not on a regular basis, but because I don't want to bug them. But I have seen them now, and they've started to like show up in my in my videos or photos. Sometimes on the advice of people that kind of had, have been in habituation situations like this, I'll go in and say, hi, I'm here. And if anybody wants, I say, if anybody wants to, show up on camera, or one wants to get their picture taken, just show me. And I've been successful as far as visual sightings. The first one that I saw was in late December of 20, I guess it would have been 2022. Yeah. And it was something that was sitting next to a tree. I was getting, like, crouching down next to a tree in the woods. I was getting the feeling, and I've never had this before, that I was being watched. And, people will say that. And so I just took my camera out or my phone, and I started a video, and I thought, I can see something sitting there. I thought that I could see something sitting there. I walked closer and zoomed in with my camera, and I thought, no, that's just it looks just like a stump, because it looked, if it was a face, the skin on the face would look like tree bark. And so I just kept filming, but I thought, no, that's just got to be a stump, Filmed it a little bit, but then I kind of forgot about it. And then 2 weeks after that, I was reviewing the video, and I thought, oh my gosh, like, you can see the thing move, like it moves. So that was something that was, like a living, whatever it wasn't tree bark. So I went back out and found the tree, and I was able to take a picture that there was nothing there. There was nothing sitting. So there was something sitting there, the day that I had taken that video, taken the video. So that was the one that I would say that I first kind of saw, but that was, just through my phone lens. Then in probably maybe a year ago, in last June, I was doing my little visit where, out there where I just kind of peek in, and there's an area that I can look into. It's about 60 to 80 yards away. Portions of it are 60, and then the furthest is 80 yards away, where I think that they're most active. They kind of like hang out there during the day to, just to sleep. And I think that there's maybe some that are sitting around watching, and, to protect the rest of the, what I call like a clan. And so one day, like I said, last June, I thought, now this is with my naked eye, and I thought that literally looks like one sitting there and like it has something, like it's holding something. And then it stood up and I could see clearly. Now, again, this is about 60 yards away. So I could see it, but it wasn't like I could see, completely defined features. But I knew that it was something, and it wasn't any kind of an animal or a human. It was solid black. It stood up and it was holding a baby, like a little solid black baby. And it's like it kind of like hitched its hip up so I could see the baby. And I just was like, oh my God, I was so honored. And I said, thank you for showing me your baby. It's so cute. This creature was thin, so I don't think that it definitely wasn't an adult. Maybe 6 to 7 feet tall. I'm not sure. I don't feel comfortable going directly to that area to recreate what I saw because it's just too close. Like I said, this is the area where they're always at, and I don't want to. I don't want to go into their home. So I'm going to guess about 6 to 7 feet tall, but mostly thin, possibility of breasts, but I'm not positive. One, like I said, solid black hair. The skin on the face was also very dark, not black, but very dark, maybe gray. And her hair, I felt like it was a young female. Her hair and her head stuck like straight out all around as if like somebody had, like if she had like a fur hood on, is the only thing I can, think of to describe it. It was kind of like a little bit comical, but, and so that was, like I said, that was the second, I guess, and third, if you're counting the baby one that I saw. The final one that I saw was last August, and I was filming an area that is right alongside of our house where toward dusk, they will kind of start to come out. It's in the tree line, and they'll start to come out, and you can't see them like straight on. It's like if we're in the front yard or way down in the backyard, you'll see movement. But I thought, well, I'm going to just walk along and have my phone recording and see if I can get anything. And then I got to an area where there's like a brush prior to the wood line. And I thought, I'm just going to kind of peek in here with my phone. It was completely pitch black. And I thought I'll just stick my phone in here. And I wasn't expecting anything. I wasn't expecting to see anything. So I stick my phone in there. And as my phone adjusts to the dark, I see one sitting there about 6 feet from me. I screamed and I ran into my house, and I couldn't believe that I could run that fast anymore. It just shocked. It just shocked me. I was so shocked. I never expected that. I think I also shocked the Sasquatch. It was sitting with its like knees gathered up, and it was like hugging its knees, but it had its arms around the top of its knees. Okay. So its knees are completely bent and like I said, almost like hugging its knees, and like I said, hugging its knees. And it had and all I could see was from the top of the nose and the eyes, like up. I couldn't see the rest of the face. When we made eye contact, it immediately like put its head down, like it hit its eyes, which I thought was like, now in hindsight, it was like adorable that I didn't feel scared at all. I felt like, I was scared at the time. I was shocked at the time. I wasn't like terrified that it was going to hurt me. I felt like it was as intimidated or like shocked and, of me seeing it as I was of it. It was auburn in color, and like with auburn with brown. It looked very much to me like the thing I immediately thought was like, oh my gosh, like Chewbacca, because it had very long hair hanging from its arms, from both of its arms. I could see that hanging down on either side. Its head was rounded on top. Slightly cone shaped, but not anything like, like say the patty, creature. It was more, a little bit more rounded, but it was still had a little bit of a cone shape, more than a human. And it had, I don't know if it was white hair around where its eyes were, or if it was just the skin was white. But I do remember distinctly like two round circles of white. And that's pretty much all that I can, that's the only thing that I can remember. And so that was the last, like I said, up close sighting. We still continue to get audio pretty with a regular, maybe once a month. Last night was I had a situation that was pretty cool. I was on a podcast talking about Bigfoot, and it was pretty loud. I was at my desk, which has a big window that faces the woods. And now I have reading glasses on, so I couldn't see any distance, whatsoever. When I was done with the podcast, and like I said, there was a lot of laughing on the podcast. It was really loud, like we were having a great time. And so what I'm wondering is if that kind of caught their attention. This is the area where I said they will kind of start to congregate at dusk, in the wood line where you can see movement. And they did that all last summer. And now, we're heading into, it's starting to stay light a lot, pretty late here. And so I guess they're going to do it again. But so last night when I was done with the podcast, I took off my reading glasses and I thought, wow, that looks like I see movement, like I'm seeing movement in the wood line. I wanted to go grab my binoculars because my family got me some high power binoculars for my birthday. But I thought, if I'm just going to start to record, because if they're standing in there, I don't want to miss anything. And I really thought that I could see one standing there, possibly holding a baby, like a little baby. That one was also solid black, as was the baby. So I just started to record and just, regular with my iPhone. And then I went to get my binoculars. By the time I got back, I couldn't see it. It was like, well, wait, maybe I'm seeing things, because all I could see where they were standing, but now it was just solid, like black, and I could see back through the trees. So I thought maybe it was just, like an optical illusions. And I just kind of forgot about it. I made dinner, I was watching TV with my family, whatnot. And then when I went to bed, I thought, oh, I want to review that video. And then when I reviewed the video, I was like, oh my gosh, there's definitely, you could see a large black one standing there holding a little black baby. So I reviewed it a couple times, and then I put it on my YouTube channel, which is really small, but it's, and so people could see that, and I've gotten some pretty good feedback. I also have a Facebook page that I started right around the time when I started to have a lot of activity here. It started out as like a local page for local people, and it kind of just branched out from there. It's called No Drama, Bigfoot and Cryptids. And so I've been able to learn a lot just through other people's, sightings and circumstances. So I guess that's pretty much it, in a nutshell.
You've got a lot going on for sure, yeah. Barb.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot going on. Definitely have some questions for you. Have you ever looked into having like some kind of audio recorder on your property, or maybe like something that would give you like a thermal way to look at thermal out there?
Yeah, well, my son-in-law, he had a pretty good thermal. Now, he's from Pennsylvania, but he was here visiting around in November. Our youngest daughter got married, so they were here visiting they were here for 10 days. And we went out like every night, trying to get any sort of, we didn't get anything on his thermal, except one night there were it was almost like two round balls, of heat signature that we could see, but that was it. And it wasn't anything where, you would say, oh, wow, definitely that's something, I think, but I don't have one myself. I'm hoping to eventually, get one of those. I have a feeling that if this was I can't imagine what else would have been in the, in where we saw this in this tree line. I don't know what else would have been in there that were, that would be looks like two heads walking around. it certainly wasn't humans, and it was pitch black. And then the other thing is I did get a little recorder, and I stuck that out. I got that for my birthday last year, stuck that out a few times overnight, but I didn't really get anything, and I got one that is not like activated by sound, because people that do this regularly, that record, they said it's better to just keep it going, all night long, and then see what you get. And I haven't gotten really anything. I seem to have the best luck with getting the audio through the cameras. And I don't know. What I do is several nights a week, I start about 12:30, in the morning, and I go till about 3:30, and just off and on, we have 4 cameras, so I'll do like round robin, and just check all the 4 cameras periodically. And that's where I've gotten the best results. But I'm going to continue with the handheld. It's just, you have to listen to 8 hours of really nothing, so.
Oh, I absolutely know how that is. And it can be mind numbing to go through stuff, but I mean, it can be really worth it too. It's just, it can be quite the ordeal to go through it. I've got a few questions I want to make sure I hit here. So from the Patreon that we have for Bigfoot Society, I'm going to take this question, maybe tweak it a little bit. So Scott was wondering if you actively engage in habituation activities with the Bigfoot. And I mean, you did bring up that phrasing yourself already. So I'm curious, maybe, are you putting out food, or are there any gifting scenarios in play?
I have not. I don't feed. What I have done as far as gifting, is there is an area that right inside I guess you'd say right inside the woods, so I don't have to go deep, there is an area that occasionally I'll leave like a bag of apples, or like one time I had like a French bread that I had put, in there. But this is with not on a regular basis, because I don't want to feed them. I feel like that's not safe. I don't feel like it's fair to them. So this will only be as a gift situation, not something that I'm like actively feeding them. And I've also put out things like Mardi Gras beads that I hung in the trees, which nothing. I mean, that wasn't even touched. I put some little tiny, the yellow rubber ducks. I put a few of them out last summer, and they were gone. They were gone. And right now there's a little wooden doll that has like a cute, I don't know, it's like an old fashioned doll. It's not an antique or anything, but a little wooden doll that I put out with a sparkly hair bow. That was one of my daughters from when she was a cheerleader. And I have those. They get moved around, but they're not taken. But that's the extent, of it. I want to do a little bit of a gifting, but I don't want to, make a pest of myself, or, like anything like that. I just want it to be, hey, I want to be a good neighbor to you, or whatever,
Yeah, absolutely. No, it definitely does. And, the whole leaving food out, it's that usually what happens is that there's a point where it stops happening from the property owner. And then that's when you hear the stories of there could be issues, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, but it sounds like...
I've heard a lot of that. It can go bad really quickly.
Oh, absolutely. And it sounds like thankfully you're aware of that and what could happen. And you're playing it smart for sure. Scott was also asking, prior to purchasing the home, were you aware of any other or prior Bigfoot history in the area? Is that something that ever came up?
I know I was aware of history, only there are 2 BFRO reports within... if you're going to go within like 10 square miles, there's probably 5 or 6. Within our house, maybe within 5 square miles, or there's at least 2. One was just a mile away. There's definitely a history out here. And again, with my Facebook page, that was why I first started to have, so people could, come on and tell us what you're experiencing. And I got quite a few people, joining and giving encounters. So I know that they're here. I just never thought that. I think that there's the family of maybe like 10 or 15 that just because of the different ones that I've seen on a regular basis that are here. And I'm sure that they, that some go off to, as far as how food, the food sources go. There's living on the Puget Sound. It's a saltwater like estuary. So there's a lot of food for them. There's all the shellfish. Of course, there's salmon and whatever, other saltwater fish. And I'm sure that, again, like that's a food source. There's some creeks that run through the area where they're at. A lot of all kinds of like berries and ferns and, just there's a lot of food for them. Mosses, all that kind of stuff.
Have you ever talked to any of your neighbors about if they're experiencing related activity?
We only have one set of neighbors, and their house is pretty close. It's a couple that's a little bit older than us. They're both retired. They had never had any activity, but I feel like the husband wasn't sure that, I'm not really even sure that he at the time believed, in them. His wife, she said that they've had some odd things on their cameras too, but nothing that would definitively, like point to it being Bigfoot. She does believe, and now since they've seen, heard our audio and seen some of the things that I've photos and videos, and so they're definitely believers now. But that's really it. Again, it's so rural that most of our neighbors aren't even that close, and and it's like I don't want to be like going door to door or whatever, or like flagging people down. Hey, have you? So.
Yeah, no, I totally get it because you're the person who has to live in that community, and I get it. I know what people have done in similar situations is this would be kind of similar, but see if you could do like a town hall meeting type situation, but then you're still going to be known as the Bigfoot person, so you have to deal with that as well. So, and I'm also like I like we had said prior, to officially starting the interview, I just really want to protect them. I won't have anybody, come here, people where they're at. Would rather if people honestly, like, what, if you don't believe me, that's fine. I'm not going to show you where they are. Like that has to remain a secret, because the last thing I would be heartbroken if people came, found where they're at and just kind of, chase them out or disturb them. And that's really been just to protect them. I want to be a good neighbor to them. I wouldn't want people coming into my house and disturbing me. And that would really break my heart if I found out that they were being disturbed or harmed or scared or whatever in any way. Absolutely. So you've had some pretty close, at least the one that was very close, you said within 6 feet. Mm-hmm. Would you, so I'll say it this way, having that close of a view at them, how or what do you think they are exactly? Did that give you anything like, oh, this looks more like an ape to me, or this could be some human offshoot? Or
what is one of the most interesting things to me is that I assumed that they were just big, like, apes, like an undiscovered ape species, large, you look at Patty and, she's like mostly like an ape. I mean, an upright, nothing like we've ever seen. Right. But the ones that here, yes, there are some that are very ape-like looking, but then there is also some that are very human looking and some have very Native American almost features. The one that I could see last night outside of my, my desk window, the baby looked more like ape, like my husband was looking at the video with me, but the big one looked very human looking. And it's bizarre to me that this is like the same clan, right? But there's some that are solid black, some are, auburn brown. There's also I didn't mention this, there's also a baby that I discovered, and I got a pretty that this baby has pale skin and bright blue eyes, and its hair is like very blonde. I mean, I thought it was a blonde baby. I thought there was that's what I thought. I was like, what is this blonde baby doing? Well, a toddler, not like an infant, because it had this like shock of blonde, hair. And I thought, what is it's sitting there by a tree. But then I have found out since that when they are first born, they're kind of, and until I don't know, whatever age, young, they have this kind of fine downy hair all over them. So this baby probably just all of its hair is white, or light like that. That baby's so human looking. It blows me away. So they're so diverse looking. So
now,
I think that they are oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, not surprisingly, when you started to talk about how baby Bigfoot are, in a way, human looking, we had some wacky audio stuff come in.
Oh my
gosh. Wild audio interference. That's actually something that I've never heard before, and that's really interesting. So you saw that with your own eyes, that it was a smaller creature, but it looked very close to what maybe a human child would look like.
Yeah, I didn't send you that picture because, this is some of this stuff, Jeremiah, is so bizarre. I know I sound like a loony to even saying it, but this was like I said, I'll send you the picture. It just was, it was amazing. I caught sight of it, but I thought, no, this isn't, no. And I knew that I got it on video, so I didn't really there's no way that there's going to be a baby sitting there looking at me, out in the woods. And I mean, broad daylight, it wasn't it didn't make a noise or anything. And I just really, I can't believe how I didn't think that this thing was actually a Bigfoot. I thought it was is it some other sort of an elemental, they say, something other than that, I don't know, but now I know that I really firmly believe it's a Bigfoot. I did go out about a week, I guess it was, after I got that. I went with my daughter and I sat in the same spot as this little baby was. And the baby was not as small as I first thought it was. I thought that it was maybe the size of, maybe imagine a 1-year-old. Okay. It looks older than a 1-year-old. It looks more like a 4-year-old, but I was thinking again that it was about the size of a 1-year-old. I was thinking it was much smaller, but when I got out there, this thing's head was probably just a little bit smaller, than mine. And it was definitely, like I said, it was taller than I thought that it was. So, and I then I believe I got a pretty good picture of it. Now this is, well, I don't know, subject, because I can see it, and some people can see it, but it's certainly not a crystal clear picture. But there was a dark one that was holding it. And it was back in that area that I said I can look into that's pretty active. And you can see that this dark, completely solid black one is holding this baby that's white, because you could see its arms and it's that hair sticking out straight, that blonde hair or white hair or whatever sticking out. And it's really cute. It's really cute. So I thought, well, yeah, there again, that is, there you go. That's a baby. That's a Bigfoot baby. It's not I don't think that they would be holding an elemental. I don't know. My opinion is that they are a human hybrid, which is what the DNA study that Dr. Melba Ketchum headed up, and the results that they got, that the mother, the mitochondrial DNA was female, and then the other was the father's side would be unknown. So I believe that, and I don't know what they are, but I don't think that they're just, they're certainly not just animals. They're way too smart for that. I know that they interfere with electronics. They'll shut the cameras off sometimes when I'm watching. They'll shut the sound off. They'll shut audio off, but then it comes right back on. We had a light out by our driveway. Like I said, we're out in we're out very rural in the country. So there's no street lights. And we have a big light that is over our driveway entrance. And they started to turn that off randomly overnight. And what else? The cameras. If I'm watching in one camera, I can see that they're causing the other camera to flash, because with infrared, you can see the circle when it goes on. Like a human eyes can see the red circle, and I'm sure they can. But there's also like a light that it flashes. If you have that, if you have that ability, and I'm sure they do, animals would have, and you can see that through the other infrared cameras, and I'll see like the other light like flashing, but there's no indication of movement coming from that camera. So I believe that they know how to do that. I don't know how, but I think that they, can have those abilities. I don't know.
There's something I'm going to ask you directly.
Yeah, sure.
You kind of already chatted about it a little bit, but so it sounds like there has not been a researcher on the property.
No.
Okay.
No. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah.
But there have been other family members that have experienced stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. My daughter one night, this was actually before I was grunted at. It was probably 6 months before that. She was coming home from work, pulling in the driveway, and she got out of her car and she saw these bright blue, like she knew that they were eyeballs or eyes because she saw them blink, but she said they were like massive, and she was terrified. She said, "Mom, there's something like standing in the woods and it's like looking at me." And she said, and it had big blue eyes and that were like shining at, and it's black. So it wasn't like eye shine, like they were self-illuminated. And she, and she saw that and she was like terrified. Then, for a while, like anytime she'd go outside at night, one of us would have to go with her. She's 24 now, but she's still very, very scared at night to go outside because of that. That really scared her. So she's not on board with seeing any of the evidence or whatever. My husband and my son-in-law, they like, they like to see it, and they've also seen things and heard things. But yeah, but that is one thing that she was the first one to see something like that. I've never seen anything like that, but I have a feeling that it was one of them. That's a characteristic of what people say, that they also experience with them.
Do you have any situations where there's something's hitting the side of your house or anything like that?
I've not experienced that, except that they will, like I had said about messing with the downspouts. I also think that there are, I guess it would be juveniles, that it literally sometimes at night, late at night, it sounds like there's something or some things running around on the roof of our house, not over, like my husband and our bedroom is on the one side of the house. So this is on the other side of the house, and it's very close to, it's right, right in the area where that lines the forest, the woods, the tree line. So, and I can hear that on the cameras at night, and I don't know what else it could be. I'm too scared to, go out and actually look, but I don't know what else it would be, because that's exactly what it sounds like. Also, I have heard some nights it's like something is banging, almost like it's trying to play music, like it's like using things as like the downspouts as drums. It's like just this banging, and I don't know what else, there's nothing else that it could be. My husband and my son-in-law were putting drywall in our garage. I believe it was sometime last year, and I believe it was like early summer, maybe late spring. And a few days later, in the middle of the night, I get this audio that it sounded like they were almost mimicking what the sound was. It'll be like I think it's like an impact driver drill, that it'll be like like it almost like makes a noise. And then, the like hammering noises. And I said to my husband, listen to this. This is like 3:00 in the morning, and it was up on top of our carport. And he said, you know what that sounds like? And then he was the one that said, that sounds like when Noah and I were installing the drywall. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, that's the kind of things that almost like the mimicking sounds. I've heard them mimic, owls. I get the owl sound so often. Like that's at least once a week that it'll sound maybe about 5 owls are out in the woods. Sounds like ducks. I think that I'd sent you an audio clip of them mimicking. They mimic ducks. First of all, there's no ducks close. We don't have any farms that are that close that you would hear, ambient noise of any farm animals. There are waterfowl, that would be out in the water in the Puget Sound, but they don't typically make noise at night. Plus the fact I could hear, if they're at the distance of where the water is versus almost like right next to the house. And I believe that the audio that I sent you was like they're mimicking ducks, but they're not doing that well.
Yeah, I can try to play it right now if you want,
Okay.
if you're okay
Sure.
with that.
Whatever.
See if it works. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. The first time I heard that, I was like, what is going on here? It sounds like some sort of like it's happy duck. Then it goes into like demon pig duck. And like,
Yes.
I'm going to play the first part
Sure.
again,
Yeah.
just real quick.
Yeah.
That's so weird, Barb. Like
It is.
I've never heard that.
And it's almost like I'm going to be a duck. Oh, forget it. I'm not doing a good job. I don't want to do this anymore. Almost right. Like, nah, forget it.
Yeah. At the end, it's funny, like, because it's like at the very end,
Yes.
it's almost like, well, I messed that up. I'm not going to try that again. Like, check it out.
There's also, which I know now just from hearing this one that is, I don't know if it's the alpha male. I'm not sure, but he has a very distinctive deep sound, and it's like I don't know. I can't, but that's like in the middle. So what were several of them trying to mimic ducks? I don't know. And he was kind of guiding. I have no idea, but there is that distinct like a grunt in the middle that that I can identify. And I believe, was that one of them that I sent you the spectrogram? I'm not sure, because I know that I've had the duck sounds. I got a lot of those last summer, and I know that one of them, the guy that had amplified the audio, he ran it through because he said, I have to see, like, is this real ducks or what? And it was above the range that a regular duck would be. He said, no, that's not a duck.
Have you ever reached out to, do you know who David Ellis from the Olympic Project is?
Yeah, I do. And I haven't done that yet. I should, because, I know a lot of the same people now.
Right.
And it's like, I really, as you can see, like, I'm very new to this, and I still feel like I'm now getting to the point, like, well, maybe I have something that I want to give him. I would never want to be that person that would be like, oh, look at the great, evidence I have. And then the person's like, oh, this is terrible evidence. Like, no, you don't. I don't know. I can't believe I'm in this situation. It's very weird, but it is to the point where, yeah, I should reach out to him.
Yeah, I might recommend it. Speaking of, so you talked about some sounds that you heard them and it was like, oh, that sounds like that. Have there ever been other situations where it's like sounds that don't belong in your area?
One night there was, it sounded like a horse, which there wouldn't be a horse. We have horse, not close, but there wouldn't be a horse like standing in my yard, like just not like a, when they'll exhale and they almost like kind of like flap their lips, that like, I can't even do it, right? Like they're exhaling, and it made that noise. And one of the guys, that had listened to it, he's like, is that a horse? And I said, definitely not a horse. We don't have horses. And it's just that one like exhale. And then, so there have been things like that. The one who I said I believe is the alpha male, possibly. He sometimes sounds like a pig or like a wild boar, but there are no wild boars in Western Washington State, so definitely not that. And there's no pigs close to us. We don't, like I said, we don't have any. There's no farm animals close enough to have any sort of ambient noise. But I'll tell you now, this is something that we do have, but like the tree frog, the frogs that will start to sing in the spring, we do have them not close. There is a swamp that's maybe a mile away, so you'll hear them from a distance. But since I've started to to record the audio overnight, I have heard very close what sounds like these frogs and almost like communicating with each other. And one of the I think I sent you the audio that it sounded like a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch was communicating with the frogs, because you'll hear the frogs and then it stops, and that's like he's making his grunting, and then the frog will almost like speak back to him. And
we can try to play it if you want, because if I don't, sure, I'm going to get just reamed in the comments.
Okay. Because this is just so weird. Like when, like if frogs, if they're going to sing, they just sing. They just all, they don't stop. They don't pause.
Right.
And I just thought that was really interesting.
All right. Let's give it a try here. I'll get it. Oh. Yeah, it's very strange. I have not gotten any other audio over the years like that.
Wow, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, it definitely feels like bizarre. There's some response to the frogs. Like I can totally hear what you were saying. It's just, it's very weird.
Yes. And I'll hear sometimes when I'll go out in, to visit them in the woods, I will hear like a singular frog making that sound. And now this will be, when it's way too cold for a frog to be out. Like this was in the middle of the, winter that I heard that frog noise. And so I'm just thinking that's probably one mimicking. I don't know what else to think. The other thing, which I don't know if you heard, that was the one where on that night I got those different sounds, and it was one night and it was very close to each other. So the guy that had amplified and enhanced it, he just did it all in one recording. And then so he had it separated by that tone. But the last one, I don't know if you could hear the whistle. It's like a two-tone, like,
Yep.
And then there's another one, but unfortunately that one was so distant, but it was like
Wow.
almost there were two, that were like, one was saying, hey, here I am. And then the other one was like, oh, here I am.
Exactly.
And that just blew me away. Cause like, wow. Right. Like what animal, that just, to me, that just shows it just, really just shows intelligence. I mean, definitely wasn't a bird.
Something that started to, I've noticed it's coming out in different areas of the community. Do you ever hear anything that sounds like, I guess, singing in a way?
No, I have heard, this isn't really singing, like it almost sounds like a flute, but I haven't gotten any good recording, of that. But I did get an audio, several audios where it's almost like a cooing. It sounds like like something is cooing. But no, I haven't gotten anything that, like I know what you're talking about, where they'll have it literally sounds like someone singing. I haven't gotten that.
It's weird. It's actually, well, it'll already be out after this gets out, but it's in the newest Small Town Monsters about the Olympic project. They talk about that. And then NAWAC Area X guys, they're a podcast. They just had a episode with Alton Higgins where he described hearing that as well. And this is in Southeast Oklahoma. So it's very interesting that different parts of the country are reporting that this phenomenon is being heard. Do you ever hear anything like baby cries?
No, I have not heard that.
Yeah,
Thank God.
Yeah,
no, I've not heard that. Yeah. That would freak me out.
Car doors shutting or rusty gates or gates shutting, anything like that?
No,
Cool.
I haven't heard anything. I heard one. I did get a recording. It was in the middle of the day of one that sounded like almost like I thought maybe like hydraulic brakes. Okay, like when they'll make like a loud squeaking noise, and my husband and I were out on the deck. It was I think it was June, in the middle of the day, like a Saturday, whatever. And my husband actually said, like, what's that noise? And I said, what do you mean? He said, wait, hear that? And I said, I don't know. Is that like, I don't know. What is that? And I said, it sounds like brakes or like a truck. He said, no. And he said, what? He said, why don't you should start recording this. And I'm like, okay. Cause I knew that he would know. He has like a, master mechanic. And so he would know. I thought that was pretty cool, but that's the only time I've ever heard. No, I've actually heard that. No, that like, I don't even know what you'd want to call it. It's not a whoop. It was just more of like a whistle call. I've only heard that in the middle of the day. Somebody had suggested that it was a female that was watching and something was coming into the area that she was watching, and she was kind of like walking through, because you could hear it moving, like alerting the rest of the clan, that something's here and be alert. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm sure that you've heard the Sierra Sounds with Ron Moorhead.
Yes.
Have you ever heard anything like that?
No, I have heard and I believe, I don't know if I had sent you this audio. It's like a whispered conversation, I think, between, two or possibly more. And I've heard that, which I think is the alpha male. He almost sounds like he's counting or saying like there's words being said, but it's nothing like the Sierra Sounds. I haven't heard anything like that.
All right. Yeah, you did send me that video. I took the audio out of it, so I'm going to try to play it if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
We'll see how it translates across.
Okay.
So
yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's very, very weird. And what's pretty cool is that, like, I could not hear most of that. What I've discovered is that there's a sound that they make, and that they were taking blocks of wood and like banging them together. But it's a sound that I think that, one or more are making with their like mouth or I don't know, almost like their throat. And it literally sounds like blocks of wood, because that sound was happening so frequently. And then we would go down like the next morning, like to look, and like nothing's moved. Like I said, we're renovating. So there are, there's wood and stuff, and there wasn't anything that was ever moved. And then when you have somebody take and amplify it, it's like, oh my gosh, look at all this other noise that's going on. So a lot of that, I didn't even realize that was happening. That was what was going on. It's so bizarre.
So over the last few years, have you noticed that these circumstances affect your dreams at all?
Yes.
All right.
I've had, just last night I had a dream about them. I haven't dreamt about them, but I would say that's only been maybe the last, let's say, 6 months. And they're very like profound, dreams that you really remember. Some people have said they're possibly like preparing me to see them, because I hadn't seen any before I had my first dream. I hadn't seen any, and they don't look, I don't know. They don't look in the dream like what I see them, but I mean, they're similar, but it's.
Can you describe like what is the difference there?
Well, like the dream, I remember, all right, like for last night, I dreamt that it was like little ones that I could see them running around in my dream. It was our yard, but that's not what our yard looks like. But they were more like a almost like what a cute little cartoon, I guess. Or, they have the AI of what a baby, artificial intelligence of what a baby Bigfoot looks like, completely adorable. They looked more like that in my dream. Now, the one that was the most profound dream that I had was that this baby crawled out of this hole in the ground, which there wasn't a hole in the ground. They just kind of like crawled out of it. And the baby was probably, I shouldn't say, but it was probably, let's say, like the size of maybe like a 6-year-old, not even a 5, like a 6-year-old. And it's walking toward the window. I'm standing in a window looking out, and it's walking toward me. And then an adult like crawls out of this hole, and it's looking at me like with almost like a mean look on its face, like it's mad. And it's like saying to the baby, like to stop, get back, like stop. But the baby keeps walking toward me. They both looked, oh gosh, like, they were brown. They both had like very like cone shaped heads, but their faces were like their faces were very human. And I mean, much more human than I would say like the ones that I see, but I don't see them that well, that defined, so maybe they do look like that. I don't know. Cause I remember the I assumed was the father looked so like he was so mad. He had like such a mad, like a human man, like mad look on his face. So I don't know. I hope I'm describing it well enough. It's bizarre. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. Is there any direct communication to you at all in those dreams ever?
No, it's more of a, okay. Yes. In a sense that they're acknowledging me and they want me to see them, like with the baby, or the little one walking toward the window, and the, like the daddy being like, no, and like looking at me like a mean face, like, I don't want my baby near you. The one that I had before that was, there were a lot that just kept showing up, like walking through the yard, like looking at me. And I believe that I was inside. I don't remember specific. I know that like they weren't that close to me. It wasn't like they were coming up to me, and like trying to hold my, touch my hand or anything like that. It was more, they're looking at me and they're acknowledging that I'm, my presence, and I'm seeing them more in that kind of a, of a communication, I guess.
Gotcha. Do these dreams or communications ever happen during the daytime when you're awake?
No.
Okay, good.
No, yeah.
That's good. Sometimes it can, from what I've heard from different reports. No. Yeah. It's such an interesting situation that you've got going on. There's a lot of stuff that you are experiencing. Are you ever in a situation where you feel threatened at all? It sounds like that really doesn't happen.
No. I've gone into the woods and I felt like, oh, this is not a good time. Like this is not a good time to be here. Like a feeling of dread, or like sometimes I'll get like a feeling of like sadness, or like, that's like, wait, this is not coming from me. This is not from my emotions. So I will, I'll leave. Like definitely if I get that feeling of like, oh, you don't belong here. But it was Monday. I went in and just briefly, looking around. It was a beautiful day, and I thought I'll just walked around just a little bit, and I got this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like such like joy and great, and just such a feeling of like being grateful, and I was so thankful for everything that was going on. Like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, like such bliss. And it just came on me. So I don't know if that was them putting that emotion on me. I don't know. Because I mean, it wasn't that I was unhappy. I was just like normal. I was neutral, going in like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to see today, if I'm going to see anything. And then that feeling of just like, wow, that was such a euphoric feeling. I'm like, maybe I should go back in there. I don't know. but that's what I would say. I've never felt threatened or like there's any sort of aggression, but I'm also, if I feel that I'm not welcome, or like, I don't know, like if I get that day when I got grunted at, I don't know, maybe they're saying hello, but maybe they're saying get out, and I don't want to do anything obviously to make them mad or to make them feel that I'm being any sort of a threat or anything like that to them,
Wow. Barb, this has been a very interesting conversation, and it's crazy to think that, I mean, just everything is happening right now, current day. It's actively happening.
I agree.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think, and it's not like I'm out there, telling a bunch of people. It's like, this is bizarre stuff. There's a limited amount of people. Thank goodness I have my little community now, that I can share some of this stuff with, because it's a lot. It's weird.
Absolutely. Do you have any advice for people out there where they have just found out that, hey, I've got something else on my property and I'm not quite sure how to deal with this?
Yeah. I guess, let's see. I guess I would just kind of treat, obviously, safety is paramount, and try to show like a mutual respect, like set an intention, right off, like right from the get-go, like you're going to be a good neighbor. But I don't want them to do anything that is going to make me mad, hurt me, hurt my dog, hurt my family. And I wouldn't, and I'm not going to do that to them either. So just, if they can just kind of go about it with that, I don't agree with like, people that feed them constantly. But again, I know, hey, there's different schools of thought and whatever. I would not suggest that. And I guess, if they're doing something that's scaring you or making you mad, people say, just go out and tell them to please stop it. but I've not had that yet. So, fortunately, I've not had that. That's I guess would be my, my only advice. I'm so new in this, so I don't feel like, that I'm certainly qualified to give anybody any kind of
I think
advice.
that's great advice. So, but
okay, thank you.
Barb, just thank you so much for coming on the show,
Sure,
and definitely I'll be, keeping an eye on your channel. I have that linked in the show notes, and it'll be interesting to see how things progress over the next few years. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Just wanted to take a few minutes to say thank you to you, all my listeners, for listening to the podcast. Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed. Share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's a list: the Subtle Lake area of Oregon, Rainbow, Oregon, McKinsey Bridge area, Sweet Home, pretty much that entire area, the north part, if you get what I mean. I'll see you back next time, listeners. Sasquatch Summerfest this year, July 11th through the 12th. It's going to be fantastic. July 11th through 12th in Green Waters Park in Oak Ridge, Oregon. And listeners, if you're going to go, you can get a 2-day ticket for the cost of one if you use the code BFS, like Bigfoot Society, but BFS. And it'll get you some off your cost. Priscilla was nice enough to provide that for my listeners. So there you go. I look forward to seeing you there. So make sure you head over to www.sasquatchsummerfest.com and pick up your tickets today.